Today I'm going to talk about lighting from the side at different angles. This is actually part 2 of a video series I'm doing on shading faces, and make sure to watch part 1 first, which I'll link at the top right of the screen right here. What we're going to talk about today is lighting that's coming from the top and from the side. That means if this is our face, lighting is coming from an angle like this. And if this is our face from the top, the angles will be something like this, this, and this, until the light is finally coming right from the side. So let's start out with this situation right here. I'm gonna erase these little arrows right here. And that situation I'm going to cover is called loop lighting. The name comes from portrait photography. I didn't invent it. It's just something to call it. And the thing is, at that angle, the left side of the face will be covered in shadow. Also, the ear will be completely in shadow. No light is coming there. It's just like if you would shade a box. One side of the box would be in shadow where the light doesn't hit. And if you imagine the face like a box, this would be at that angle, the side of the face that wouldn't receive much light. The left side of the chin would be a bit in shadow. And the shadow follows the curve of the cheekbone and goes somewhere down here to the chin. Then, once again, the eye sockets are casting shadows. Or these planes are facing away from the light. And in the first video I established that this guy does have pretty pronounced eye sockets. At that angle of the light, maybe this shadow would even start somewhere like here or even here. But with this guy, let's just keep it this way for simplicity's sake. Then, once again, the bottom of the nose. Remember, the lighting is coming from the top, so the bottom of the nose, these planes will also not catch any light. Well, something like that. The upper lips, like I said in the first video, will most of the time be dark. Maybe not that dark, but in this case we only have light and shadow to play with. So let's just keep it this way and make them completely dark. And these are pretty much the planes that are facing away from the light. And the second thing is once again the cast shadows. And in this case the eye sockets once again cast a shadow on the eyes and cover them in darkness. Also the right one. Then the nose is again casting a shadow, but I forgot one thing, because if the left side of the face is in shadow, the left side of the nose is also in shadow. And then the cast shadow of the nose is similar to the one in the first video, which was underneath itself, but at this angle, the shadow will also be at an angle, something like that. Let's fill this out really quickly here. And maybe it extends even a bit to the left side of the nose. Something like that. And then, once again, the lips. And the angle of the shadow kind of follows the angle of the shadow of the nose. Plus the lower lips will cast this little shadow. And I keep this one pretty small, or it might look a bit weird, in my opinion. And apart from that, there will also only be this shadow under the whole chin. And it will also be at a similar angle like the shadows of the nose and the eye sockets and the lips and everything else basically. So if we fill this out very quickly, we kind of have the first lighting situation done, which is called loop lighting. Let's maybe add a little bit more shadow under this eye socket to make it a bit more symmetrical. Now, if we go ahead and cover the next lighting situation, just duplicate this layer to keep all the shadows and just change the direction of the light to something like this, a bit more angled. This is what's called Rembrandt lighting. And the name comes from the Dutch painter Rembrandt, which always used to draw light that way on the face, or very often at least. And at that angle, a bit more of the side of the face would be in shadow. Let's keep the eyebrows white in this case. Then the eye sockets would maybe cast a little bit more shadow. But more importantly, the left side of the face would be way darker. And also the left side of the chin will be more in shadow. The next thing is the shadow of the nose, which will also be longer and bigger and pretty much go all the way down here. And you can already see this triangle forming on the left side of the face, this triangle of light. And that's basically called the Rembrandt triangle. The same thing for the shadow of the lips. It will go right above the lower lip, and also the shadow of the lower lip will kind of go into this shadow of the chin and create this pattern. The shadow of the chin will also be way longer and bigger and basically extend all the way down here and cover the whole left side of the shoulder area and the neck in shadow. Maybe it would even be a bit more like this and start right there. And then the nose, maybe a little bit more of the nose, the top of the nose would be in shadow. Not much, but a little bit. And lastly, at that angle, probably the inside of the ears would receive some shadows. This fold of the ear, this skin fold, would probably cast a little shadow. And then the inside of the ear might also be a little bit darker. Something like that. Now, that's our second lighting situation, and if we go further and cover the last lighting situation, which is basically lighting completely from the side. Let's change this little graphic right here too. And we'll actually change the angle of the light completely so that it all comes from the right side. And what happens right then is basically, let's erase this and start over. Basically, the whole left side of the face will be in shadow. That means everything right here is just not receiving any direct light. It's a bit difficult to judge where the shadow starts on the top of the head, on the forehead, but let's say it's somewhere like here. It depends on the angle of the light. But in this case, I'll leave it right here. Then the nose. Somewhere in the middle of the nose, the shadow would start. The whole philtrum would probably be dark and everything that's left of it to the left. The lips, I tend to always make the upper lips dark. Maybe in this case they would receive a bit light from the left, but for simplicity's sake, once again, I'll leave them dark. And the upper lip will once again cast a little shadow, but maybe more to the left of the lips. And maybe the lower lip also, something like that. And once again, the chin at this angle, more of the chin would be in shadow. Something like that maybe. Then the neck. Probably the whole left side of the neck will be in shadow too. Maybe the Adam's bubble will receive a bit more light right here. Then the chin would maybe cast a little shadow to the side, maybe like that. And then the last things are little details, like in this case the eye sockets wouldn't receive that much shadow because the light is hitting all this, but here is often a little dark place right here, and it once again depends on the angle of the light, how pronounced this is. Then the eyeball and the eyelid would receive a little bit of shadow. It would look something like that. Could even go ahead and do something like that and this, but these folds aren't meant to be so pronounced in this case. The ear would pretty much receive much light and not cast much shadow, but you could go ahead and maybe at that angle draw a pretty pronounced shadow of this skin fold and this fold of the lip right here. And you could even go ahead and shade a bit of the top of this fold to make it a little bit more pronounced. You can already see how this is making this fold pop out a bit. So this pretty much covers the lighting from the side. So let's look once again at these lighting patterns. You can once again see the shadows just get longer and cover more of the face until pretty much the whole left side of the face is covered in shadow. And blending out or switching off the drawing, you can once again see these patterns, and I recommend you to remember them because these are the basis of learning to shade faces. Because if you know these, you can go further and add halftones and reflected light and maybe even second light sources. And that's what I'm going to talk about in part 3 of this video series, where I'm going to show you how to shade a face with 2 light sources. So make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that, and leave a comment below if you have any further questions or tips for me. Thanks.